Cool.
Hey. Hi, Monica.
Hi, Liam.
How you be?
Great. I'm here in Texas. Uh, I was just a second ago starting to watch the Facebook Live that you did on gratitude, and I got super excited at that all of that energy that you were being. So thanks for that. I look forward to watching the rest of it.
I think it's only like 20 seconds.
I love 20 seconds.
So today we're doing a conversation with nature spirits. This is take two because our first time that we did this, it was so great and it was never recorded. So what's up with the nature spirits in good old Texas?
Well, okay. This is awesome. So I have been asking a bunch of questions about the nature spirits for my whole life, really. But one thing that has been coming up recently from some conversations that you and I have been having, and I have some different classes coming up, and so I've been asking a lot about, what would those classes like, and what would the nature spirits like, and one big thing has been this sense of separation between nature spirits and us people, and like I've just been curious, like how much of that is an invention, and what is it that we can change to shift all of that. And then with that comes this sense of like superiority and inferiority, that is kind of simultaneously both superior and inferior. So like everywhere that, as people with these kinds of bodies, we can make ourselves superior to nature spirits as though they're just some kind of fantasy made up thing. And then at the same time, we can make them inferior to them because they know more than we know. So just looking at like all of the ways that those dynamics impact and limit the conversations that are possible. So that's what I've been looking at in Texas with the nature spirits I'm talking to.
Yeah. But what you're saying there is so cool because either way, whether you go inferiority or superiority, it's a polarity, and you create this separation or a border or a boundary between us with bodies and with the nature spirits or spirit in the more general term. And so what can we then be and do differently that would start to allow those that polarity to start to dissipate?
Well, it's funny, Liam, because I have been a dancer for many years, and there's so much judgment around bodies and embodiment, and so many conclusions about what's right and what's wrong about it. And a lot of the time, as we talk about spirit, or nature spirits or whatever, we act like they don't have a body, as opposed to like what are the ways that they are embodied. And there's been all of this judgment around embodiment that I see that makes us kind of stupid, really, about like that we're better because we have a body, but we hate our bodies, and then things that don't have bodies are better, but they're wrong. And it's like, it's this weird prejudice around embodiment that does not allow us to be present with all types of embodiment. It's like even trying to talk about that, I can almost hear this like, huh? What? What does that even mean? Blah! That's crazy, But that's something that I'm really curious about. Like, what prejudice do we have around form that keeps us from being aware of whatever it is that we're aware of? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, totally. That's, well, you know, me over many, many years ago, I had a disease, and how much did I judge my body? And the disease was a direct symptom, if you like, or a sign of all of that judgment of, you know, my body is pathetic, it's weak, it's wrong, it's not manly enough, all of those sorts of things. And today I was talking with my friend Cass, and we were looking at racism, and like, how much do we have, like, almost like a racism with nature spirits, where we're judging almost the color or creed that they be, but because they don't have a physical body in the same sense we do.
I know, it's crazy to me, because yes, they don't have the same kind of body, and so then we're like, oh, that doesn't even exist. But then for all of the creatures that do have bodies, we judge the hell out of those bodies. It's like insanity on top of more insanity. So you're wrong if you have a body, you're wrong if you don't have a body, but the body gets to be super hated. And I'm just like, well, how cool. Instead, if we could flip it around to some of what you were saying in your gratitude Facebook Live earlier, is that the gratitude doesn't give the space for judgment. So like, how much gratitude can we have for embodiment? And what can that shift? You know, what are all of the types of embodiment that we can be aware of and talking to, whether that's like somebody who's embodied in like a person form, or a tree, or the earth, or whatever. And then as you begin to like turn toward these different types of embodiment, what other entities are a part of the creation of all of that embodiment?
Yeah. And I think that's one of the keys to creating a greater communion in general with nature spirits, is to create a communion with your own body. And part of that is that gratitude, having gratitude for it, no matter what other people are projecting at it. And really just being that vulnerable space that gratitude is, and never having a point of view where you have to defend, like in this case with nature spirits, how many of us are actually defending the nature spirits because they have been so abused in the past, and how many of us are fighting for it as well, which creates more of that separation, rather than being grateful for our bodies right now and opening that space up and being vulnerable enough to allow ourselves not to go into judgment and to see everybody's point of view without having to defend for or against it.
And there's another part of the vulnerability too, that just as you were saying, being vulnerable enough to, what came for me is being vulnerable enough to be aware of energies or little things that other people may not be aware of. Mm-hmm. It's like there's a certain amount of like fitting in that we have been taught to try to do. And fitting in is agreeing with other people. Like, oh yeah, did you get that? I got that. We got the same thing. Here we are. We're together now. And like, there's a certain vulnerability that is required to just go ahead and be whoever you are. It might be so different. And some of that may come in the form of what it is that you're aware of. Maybe you're aware of something that nobody else in the room is aware of. And like the vulnerability to just acknowledge what it is that you're aware of, and to play with that. You know, like, how much fun can you have playing with what you're aware of? And when we're talking about nature spirits, you know, it's like they don't show up always in the same kind of obvious physical form, but they can speak to you, and it's that, you know, that speaking may be quiet. Would you be willing to be vulnerable enough to hear it, listen to it, and speak to it, you know?
And that last night we had in Rome here, we had a receiving from nature spirits, and that was one of the key things that came up, was that there were 6 of us in the class, and each one of us had totally different awarenesses around the nature spirits that were in the park and the plants and stuff. And the first tree that we went to, there were so many different awarenesses around this tree, and because we were all willing to listen to each other's awareness without trying to defend our own or fight against the other person, what actually came out of it was such a space of gentleness and kindness. And like, we changed bucket loads in that park yesterday. And so, yeah, thank you so much for that, Monica, bringing that up. That is such an important gift, that we all have different abilities and awareness. Let's share them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so cool and so exciting to me. And this is such a part of what I've been asking for. You know, it's like I have had to get over myself with, you know, not wanting to be seen as too weird, and then actually being really weird, and then, you know, like all of that stuff, to actually just come out and be like, hello, I talk to nature spirits, and that is what it is, you know. And like, who else is aware of this earth in a way that can contribute to the earth, not from just thinking about it, from being aware and being in communion with the other creatures and beings that are here. And how cool that all of us have all of these different gifts and these different ways of being aware that can actually add to each other. Like, would you need to talk to somebody if they just had all of the same points of view that you do? I mean, not from my point of view, not necessarily. That's just reiterating what you already know. But like, when you can talk to an entity or a person or whatever and get new information, how cool is that, you know? And so I'm super curious, you know, like, what is it that can really be an invitation to this conversation for everyone and everything to step forward and be like, here's what I've got.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just looking at some of it. Very good at reading the comments and doing so. I just want to acknowledge all the beings that are on this Facebook Live right now, and thank you for joining us. And what do you know about nature spirits that you're pretending not to know, or that you've pushed so far out of your awareness that it's not creating a lot of more ease for you? And this is one of the things that I've loved since I've started to really look at this area, which was from about October last year, where I was really called upon from the nature spirits. I've forgotten what I was saying. I'm just such an airhead.
Good. I have a quick question. Do we only have 15 minutes?
No, we don't.
Okay, good. Because the last time we did, we got kicked off, and we're at about 15 minutes. So I want to make sure that we don't get kicked off in the middle of a brilliant statement. Okay, I don't know what this person is saying, but what you were just starting to say about really being called in October to step forward with all of this. First of all, I would like to know what that was. What was that in October?
Well, I could gone to. Do you want the story or?
Yeah, why not? Do you have a little quick version of it?
Quick version. Okay, so I was in Japan. I was in a town called Iga, which is the where the ninjas come from. We had a bunch of classes planned there. Nothing happened. Instead of going to class, we went out. We went to a waterfall, and on the way back home, I got this. Well, at the waterfall, I got this download of information and awareness. And in the car on the way back home, I said very dramatically, "Stop the car!" You know, we've got to do a class on elementals, which is the same as nature spirits. And within like 8 hours, we had 10 people in the class, and like we'd spent 4 weeks trying to create other classes that just didn't happen. And this is the thing when you're actually willing to receive the awareness and then put it into action, because you are just like, it's light, you know it's a possibility, and you start creating it. And so since then, the nature spirits have sometimes been screaming at me, and I've still been I'm busy with other things at the moment, but yeah.
Cool. Okay, I have a little story. Are you ready? You know my story.
Yeah.
Basically, recently I was talking to my business and asking my business what it would like and who I could add to my business to assist it to grow beyond my control. Because I'm a little bit of a control freak, I'll just admit it. And so I asked that question, you know, who could I add? And of course I had all of these conclusions about like, oh, it's got to be, you know, whatever, a person, I'm going to have to pay them so much and blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, like tons of nature spirits stepped forward and they were like, we would like to be a part of your business. And it's funny, I'm a talk to the entities facilitator, and working with entities is definitely something that I've done, but I hadn't ever considered having nature spirits be a part of my business in that way until they stepped forward to offer this to me. And I mean, it just blew my mind. And it's been interesting because since then, I was like, okay, cool, thank you. I would love that. And then all of these things have been coming forward where people have been contacting me and asking me to teach classes on nature spirits that I hadn't even planned, you know? And it's so cool to see the ways that we can be creating together with all of the energies and entities that are here in this world. And that as you kind of respond to the call, how many fun things, fun unexpected things can show up, and how much like responding to that call in a way has forced me to step out of control and to receive, you know, greater than I had ever imagined possible. So how's it get better than that? I see that there are some things on the chat, but I can't read them. Do you have them, Liam?
Yeah, well, there's only one. Oh no, there's heaps of comments. Oh, okay, cool. Have you seen these, or how do you perceive these entities? This period, I've got a lot of information about dragons. Is this funny to talk about? Dogs, cats, and how I have a cat of my own, and although she was forced on me, we're learning to love her and miss her when she's okay. Cool. Some of those questions are really cool. Like, how do you perceive? If we just get through that in the next few minutes before we,
yeah,
how do you perceive these? And For you, the way that I perceive them is very different to the way that you perceive them.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing that I is to ask that question of yourself. How do you perceive nature spirits? And then, because it's a question, it will open up a possibility for you. But Monica, you might have some more.
Yeah, well, one thing with that I like to play with is asking for your awareness to make itself even clearer to you. And so there may be many ways that you already are perceiving nature spirits, but you're so used to them that it's not even a thing. You don't even notice it, you know? So sometimes for me, like, I'll be walking through a park and I just have to go up to a certain tree. And that is a way of perceiving something. What is it? I could try and analyze it and get lost in that, but, you know, that's not super interesting for me. So what I started to do at first was I would just ask lots of questions. I would go out into the world and I would be like, hey, who's out here? Could you please assist me in making it so obvious that even I can get past all my resistance? And then whenever I do that, I used to do that as like an exercise. Like I would go into the garden and I would say, hey, garden, I'm here. Is there anything that you would like me to do? Please let it be really clear. And then I'd just get to work. And then because I had asked, if anything shifted or anything got my attention, I would follow it. I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't second guess it. I would say, okay, I have made a request. And now my job is to receive all of the information that comes to me. So that's one thing, like both acknowledging how you perceive, and then you can also ask for assistance to make it even clearer. And for me, I've just found that to be really fun. So I have all this motivation to continue to do it, you know? So that's kind of like a starter way that I go through it, and really acknowledging that you perceive without expectations that it be like a particular way. I found that to be really useful. So
that's really cool. And I had the same awareness when I was cycling with a friend of mine, and she asked me, because we were going through the rainforest, she said, how do you perceive trolls? And then cycled off. I don't perceive trolls. And then I went, I actually know the energy. And so when she asked me that question, I started to try and perceive them, but I already knew the energy. I already embodied that energy. So whenever there's trolls around, I just know. And yet so many of us are trying to perceive what it is that we already know. So I really love that tool about there where you ask for the clarity and to let them be seen with ease. Mm-hmm. And by asking the question, you're inviting them to step forward and step up too. So it's not always just a one-way thing where we're trying to step up and we're trying to give more and contribute in that way, but also inviting them to come to the foreground for us.
Totally. And with that too is like we can get very in our heads, and pretty much like I could go on and on about this, and there are different formats. Liam's going to be teaching a class. I've got a class coming on. We can dive deeper into this, but a really quick little nugget is just to say that a lot of the time when you're thinking, you become less aware. It's like you're talking and you can't hear as well when you're talking as you could if you were just listening, you know? So the thinking can like get in the way of stuff. So one thing that I know that Shannon O'Hara has mentioned, you know, when you're first playing around with Talk to the Entities is like sometimes if you go to do a bunch of clearings or something like that and you're not having any, it's kind of hard, then like watch TV and do it. Distract yourself. Get your thinking out of the way. So if you have an expectation and you think that it's supposed to be a certain way, and then you go and you're like, garden, here I am, you can actually push some things away. So maybe distracting yourself too can allow you to have stuff slip beyond all of your thinking barriers and all of your expectation barriers. So like I said, for me, I'd go into the garden and I'd be like, all right, let me know. And then I'd just get to work and just do my thing. And then all of a sudden I would be like lost in something and something would come up. But I wasn't like, where are you? Where are you? What are you going to say to me? I wasn't fixated. And I find that to be helpful too. So throwing that out there.
Cool. So, you've got a series coming up, embodying
nature. Yeah. So working with the nature spirits and embodiment. And what is it that you know about embodiment that can be a gift to the nature spirits? What is it that nature spirits know about embodiment that can be a gift to you and with your body? So it'll be a 30 days kind of energy pull and presence that starts on September 8th, where every day we'll have a little kind of Zoom session where we are online and exploring different physical and energetic practices every day with the nature spirits and your body and embodiment. So yeah, that starts on the 8th.
I was on your original series and like, guys, you got to do this if you really want to start getting into the energy of it. Yeah. You'd be stupid not to choose it. Oh, no, don't choose it. Don't choose it.
Thank you, Liam. Thank you. And you've got something coming up?
Yeah, I got receiving from spirits. It's a 2 hour. I think it's on the 18th of September. I can't remember. You'll have to check out.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's where we will be not looking so much at the energy pools of things, but tools and tips and exploring what you know about nature spirits and expanding on that. So for me, it's a really great conversation, not only with nature spirits, but with you, and inviting you to share with all of us that you know about nature spirits, so we can start to create a change on the planet.
Totally.
And, I'm getting a little bit buzzes now as I talk about that, because I think it was Gary that said, if we really want to on this planet, we have to listen to nature, and listening to the nature spirits and listening to what you know is part of that.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And that's the thing, it's like we do these classes and, there is a desire to have people come into these classes to create together. And beyond any of that, like, what is possible? What conversations are possible now that haven't been for a long time? And like, I'm curious, who is looking for this? There's some of us that are so connected to nature, but don't have a way to talk about it, that it gets kind of stunted, and what else is possible to really step into to actually create the changes that we're looking for, that we know are possible. And like, it's like, what if we could have a tsunami of change, of consciousness that flows through all of us to actually be in communion on this planet? And what would it take for that not just to be like a utopian ideal, but actually a reality that we could choose. So like anybody who's listening to this, I'm like, please be present. And if there's any way that like we can expand a conversation around that, get in touch with us. And if there's any way that you can expand a conversation around that, please do. So
just on a final note, set up this Facebook page called Receiving from Nature Spirits. Yeah. Like, oh my God, I've only got 10% on my computer. And like, if you would, whatever you choose, what if we could invite you to share that page to other people? So, because we've got lots of stuff on there already, got some really great videos. Please and pass them on if you would like to create a different reality with nature spirits.
Yay!
I'm going to go now. I'm just about to lose my computer.
All right.
Video. What will it take?
Yes. All right.
Cool.
Thank you so much, Liam. We'll be talking again soon.
Yes.
Bye, everybody.